Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. We're going to speak on ELV directives and also the advanced features in IMDS. Bharat, can you move over to the next slide, please? Okay, during this time, I expect everyone to be muted, and we are recording the session, so we'll send the session after the webinar is over. And before we leave the webinar, there'll be a short survey conducted. So please, we request you to participate in that survey. And if you have any questions, you can write to us, or else you can ask your questions during the Q&A session time. Thank you. Can we move over to the next slide? That we have two speakers from the IMDS services. We have two IMDS experts. One is Shaktivel and the other is Bharat. This is going to be an agenda. It's pretty straightforward. We are going to have a look into the ELV directives overview, mostly from India and Europe. The second thing is we will move into the advanced features in IMDS, and we will move into the Q&A session. Okay, so before we go into the session, we would actually like to introduce ourselves. So APA has been there around for more than over 2 decades, and we have services in the engineering, sourcing, compliance, and cataloging. Move over, please. And with respect to compliance section, we offer a wide range of services, which also covers a lot of regulations from the European Union and US, and there are other global regulations involved. So you can see a few of our services here, mostly to say skip ROHS and conflict minerals. And right now we are also expanding our services into ESG and also CBAM. So can we move over to the next slide? We'll have a short poll right now. Please give in your feedback. Thank you for your voting. Bharat, can you move over to the next slide, please? Okay, and first we'll start our agenda with the ELV directives, and our speaker will be Shakti. Shakti, you can handle the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjini, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Today, we are taking a journey through the life cycle of a vehicle, from the moment a vehicle is designed to its eventual end of the life. Each stage is essential to understand a sustainable process. It all begins with design and manufacturing. This is where ideas comes to life, where innovation meets practicality. Whether it is a compact car or a rugged SUV, every vehicle starts with a vision. Once the design and manufacturing process are completed, next we move to distribution and sales. Here, vehicles are shipped across the globe, filling showrooms with options for consumers. This stage connects manufacturers with drivers, matching needs with their demands. Once on the road, the vehicles enter the usage and maintenance phase. This is where they become trusted companions for daily life. Regular maintenance keeps the vehicles running smoothly. I would like to explore here more on the life cycle assessment, shortly abbreviated as LCA, which is a systematic analysis method that quantifies and assesses the environmental aspects and potential impacts associated with a product, process, or a service. It looks at everything starting from raw material extraction, production, distribution, and until its use and disposal. This LCA consists of 4 main components, which are goal and scope definition, life cycle inventory, life cycle impact assessment, and interpretation. This goal and scope definition stage defines the purpose of the assessment and outlines what will be included. In life cycle inventory, All inputs and outputs of a product or process are quantified, such as energy, materials, and emission. The life cycle impact assessment evaluates the potential environmental impacts based on the data which we arrive from life cycle inventory, considering factors like climate change, resource depletion, and pollution. Finally, on assessing all the data, we will analyze the results and we will draw the conclusions and identify the areas which needs improvement. The LCA has various applications across industry. For example, in product development, it helps to identify opportunities to reduce the environmental impacts from early design stages. For manufacturers, they will use LCA to make informed decisions about material selection, energy use, and production methods. The government and policymakers rely on LCA to develop environmental policies and regulations. The consumers benefit from LCA by making informed choices, such as selecting products with lower environmental footprints. Among the numerous benefits of LCA, few of them, few of them are as below. It provides a holistic view considering all stages of a product's life. It also helps us to identify hotspots where environmental improvements can have the most significant impact. It supports the sustainability goals by reducing resource use, emissions, and waste generation. Thus, LCA can be a powerful communication tool to help stakeholders understand the complex environmental issues. Let's move to the next slide. Now, let's talk about the stage that often gets less attention, end-of-life vehicles, or simply called as ELVs. These are vehicles that are ready to be disposed of as a waste, and it's a critical part of a sustainable process. Every year, the end-of-life vehicles generate between 8 and 9 million tons of waste in Europe alone. This staggering amount highlights the importance of managing these ELVs correctly. However, managing ELVs possesses several challenges, from dismantling to recycling. Materials like plastics, metals, and fluids must be carefully handled, otherwise, they can cause adverse effects on the environment. So, to manage these ELVs, the European Union has issued a directive in 2000. Let's move on to the next slide to dwell deep into the key decisions and requirements under this directive. In the year 2001, the Commission has decided to issue a questionnaire for all the member states in the European Union to report on the implementation of the ELV directive. It also ensures the accountability and track the progress on implementing this ELV directive. By 2002, the Commission states that there should be a minimum requirements for the certificate of destruction. This ensures that the ELVs are properly dismantled and disposed of, which will reduce the environmental harm. Then by 2003, the Commission decides on establishing component and metal coding standards, which streamlines the process of identifying and sorting materials for efficient recycling. Finally, in 2005, we have detailed rules on monitoring the reuse and recovery and reuse and recycling targets, which are which are 85% and 95% respectively. This promotes a circular economy, maximizing the use of resources. While coming on to the scope where the ELV directives can be applied, this scope of the ELV directives is on M1 and N1 type vehicles. M1 vehicles are for passenger transport with up to 8 seats plus the driver, whereas the N1 are for goods carriage with a maximum mass of 3.5 tons. This includes pickup trucks and vans. You can see few images of the M1 and N1 type vehicles here. Moving on, the main objectives of the ELV directive is to reduce waste from the end-of-life vehicles. Let's explore the main goals set for the vehicle manufacturers and importers in the EU. The manufacturers are encouraged to limit the use of the hazardous substances like lead, cadmium, mercury, and hexavalent chromium in their new vehicles. This protects both the environment and human health. Then the vehicle designers are encouraged to design vehicles in such a manner that will facilitate easy reuse and recycle. This will promote the circular economy by ensuring that materials can be extracted and repurposed efficiently. Another objective of the ELV directive is to integrate recycled materials into new vehicles. This further reduces the demand for virgin resources and encourages a sustainable supply chain. Through all this objective, the ELV directive ensures the proper functioning of the internal market and avoiding distortions of competition in the EU market. Then moving on, as I already said, the reuse and reuse and recycle and reuse and recoverability are the one of the objectives of the ELV directive. The recyclability rate is calculated by the percentage of the mass which we reuse or recycle to the actual mass of the vehicle. Likewise, the recoverability rate is the percentage of the mass which we reuse or recover to the actual mass of the vehicle. The recovery includes the energy recovery from these materials as well. Among the recycle, it is not possible to recycle 100% of the materials from these ELVs. Some of them are or remain as an undefined residue and they are studied as waste as well. Moving on. In the ELV directive, the Annex 2, whose latest revision is released on March 2023, sets strict limits on the usage of certain substances in vehicles. Let's take a closer look at these restrictions. This annexure suggests that the use of the lead, mercury, and hexavalent chromium should not be more than 0.1% in the material level, and the usage of cadmium should not be more than 0.01% in material level. However, while manufacturing a car, this is not practically possible. Hence, the ELV Annexure 2 sets few application code which will restrict heavy metals by expiry date concerning the vehicle type approval. This also ensures a compliance with environmental standards. For example, in the screenshot you are looking, if lead is used in steels for machining purposes, it should not be used more than 0.35% by weight. Then, let us take a closer look on these heavy metals and their alternatives in vehicle manufacturing. For example, if you are going to use a lead batteries, instead of lead batteries, we can use nickel metal hydride or lithium ion batteries. Instead of using lead in soldering purposes in electric components, we can use silver based solders or lead free tin based solders. For use, instead of using mercury bulbs in our front heads, lamps in our car, we can use halogen bulbs. Likewise, instead of using cadmium batteries for electric vehicles, we can use nickel metal hydride batteries or lithium ion batteries, which were available. Then, India is also ready to move to this scrappage revolution. After several discussions between with the SIAM, which is nothing but Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers, and with several OEMs, the Indian government has planned to introduce the ELV policies in April 2022. Few of the highlights in these policies are they are planning to include a fitness certificate for the newly produced vehicles. Once this vehicle, they set a time period for these vehicles to provide their fitness test. For commercial vehicles and government body vehicles, the period is 15 years, whereas for private vehicles, the period is 20 years. If the vehicles are fail to obtain a fitness certificate, they will be deregistered and they will be banned for regular usages. The Indian government has also offers incentives like a concession in road tax. The concession is up to 25%, by which we can encourage the use of the recycled materials in the new vehicle production. We are expecting this regulation to be enforced from April 2024. To conclude, the life cycle of a vehicle involves careful planning, responsible manufacturing, and sustainable end-of-life management. So thus the ELV directive and its related decisions set a path towards a greener automotive industry, protecting our environment for generations to come. Now I'm handing over to Bharat to take a tour on the IMDS features. Bharat, please.
Thank you, Shakti, for your valuable insights over ELV directives globally. Okay, so myself, Bharat. Good morning, everyone. So, as Shakti said, I'm going to take you through the advanced features included in the IMDS and its basics of IMDS, what are benefits of IMDS, and how these IMDS will comply with the ELV directives, and what are the advanced features which is going to be released over IMDS 14.3 release, which is going to happen later this year. So let's move on to the session. Okay, so we'll start with IMDS. As you may be aware of that, IMDS, International Material Data System, which is a global data repository that contains information on materials, which is used by almost every automotive industry. So this IMDS database has been created through a joint venture between this DXE Technologies and through a consortium of OEMs like Audi, BMW, Daimler, Ford, etc. So the starting stage. So after success of this IMDS, all other OEMs, almost all other companies globally have joined the IMDS, and almost all OEMs with the global representation is now been using this IMDS system for their complaints related requirements and needs. So several leading auto manufacturers use this IMDS, almost every auto manufacturers globally. So in IMDS, all the materials in finished automobile manufacturing are collected, so maintained, analyzed, and archived. So if a particular automobile is being manufactured, so various subcomponents, thousands of subcomponents will be included, roughly 40k thousands of subcomponents is being included while manufacturing a particular automobile. So what are the parts? What are the parts? And what are the subcomponents, and what are the materials used and substance used under these subcomponents should be collected, and it should be stored for future reference, if any. So that particular in that particular juncture, this IMDS is a very helpful tool. So to maintain that particular hub of data and store it for any future reference and comply with the global standards and all. So this IMDS basically facilitates meeting the obligations placed on these automobile manufacturers and their suppliers by national and international standards and legal and global regulations throughout the globe. So these are the basic introduction of an IMDS system, so our IMDS database. So moving on to the next slide. So benefits of using this IMDS. So normally this IMDS has many benefits. So I would like to point out certain benefits here through this slide. So first thing is environmental compliance. So this automotive supply chain is a complex one, as you know. So as I already said, so these automotive components, a particular automobile has numerous components involved in manufacturing that particular automobile. So each and every data or each and every substance or chemicals used in that particular component should be collected and should be in norm with the regulatory complaints. So in that aspect, this like particular directives like European Union's REACH and ROH and all ROH directive. So such directives are followed globally. So this IMDS will help the auto manufacturers and OEMs and the suppliers to comply with that standards. So in that aspect, these regulations are geared towards prohibiting use of certain substance in their products. So IMDS helps the automotive companies to become compliant with these various regulations by detailing the materials that went into making a particular automobile or making a particular vehicle. So if there are any hazardous substance within that products, IMDS helps to identify that particular substance and inform the automotive companies and help them to determine the safer or alternative one, which is a safer one for environment. So in that way, IMDS is benefited. Then next thing is transparency in supply chain. So as you know, it is important for every automobile company to to be in proper communication with their suppliers. Then only there will be a transparency in the supply chain. So through this transparency, we can avoid the unwanted collisions or unwanted content, unwanted percentage of content used in that particular product, so that it will satisfy the norms and all. So the automobile, this IMDS will help in communication between these OEMs and suppliers. So in this way, through a proper communication, the supply chain risk can be identified, and the risk can be addressed early, so that we can maintain the confidentiality and transparency in the supply chain. So next one of the benefit is data security. So this IMDS doesn't divulge lower tier supplier so names. So it will always maintain certain confidential data, confidentiality in their data. So certain suppliers are allowed to make their confidential substance as a joker or wild card. So with a particular percentage, so not exceeding that percentage, they can always provide a particular confidential substance under the common. So in that way, IMDS is providing data security, then cost savings. So when communication between this auto manufacturers and suppliers are not proper, there might be a risk of miscommunication, and there might be a risk increase in the risk, and this might lead to unnecessary costs. So while once after launching a particular product, so if that product is not complying with the regulatory standard of a particular country, then that company will receive a hefty fines and all. So in order to avoid that, the IMDS at the initial stages itself, it will be in proper communication with the suppliers and OEMs, and thereby can comply with the standards. So this is the aspect of IMDS in helping the companies to save the cost drastically. The next thing is improved sustainability. So to make a safer, more environment friendly material options helps to increase sustainability in the automotive industry as a whole. So committing to the improvement of environmental health improves many things, like a reputation of a company is increased. So if the reputation is increased, then the company's sales margin will grow, then the customer loyalty will grow. So likewise, the customer will tends to believe the particular automobile manufacturer, and their loyalty towards that customer will also be increased. So in that way, IMDS is helping the global OEMs directly and indirectly. So these are the certain benefits of using this IMDS system. So next we'll move on to the next slide, that is why IMDS for ELV compliance. So you could see this points which I mentioned. So all inclusive data hub, which means, so it is a comprehensive material data. So the IMDS stores a comprehensive material data for which every part that goes into a particular car, so making it possible to precisely identify them and separate them during recycling as well. So it will, at the initial stage of the product's life cycle itself, it can store the data, and it can precisely identify which parts and which substance are used in that particular part, so that it will be helpful at the later part of the life cycle of that particular automobile. The next thing is simplified reporting. So by enabling standardized data interchange between the automobile manufacturers and suppliers, the solution reduces the administrative overheads and streamline the reporting process. So that the simplified compliance reporting process is being achieved through this IMDS data. The next thing is transparency and traceability. So authorized parties from both the OEM side and the supplier side will have certain access to material data, which encourages them to use that supply chain transparency option, so that they can guarantee a particular set of norms which has been followed to while getting a disposal procedure and kind of things. So that is an aspect of IMDS in point of view from a ELV compliance. The next thing is regulatory alignment. So globally there are various regulatory norms and legal norms and rules followed throughout the globe. So one such data is like REACH. So IMDS data simplifies compliance across several directives by aligning with this ELV compliance, and permits the regulations to adhere to that particular standards. So that is a aspect of IMDS for EMDS, one of the aspect of IMDS for ELV compliance. The next thing is constant updates. So to keep the users aware of the regulatory norms, which has been updated regularly. So regulatory norms has been like updated by the global giants or global governments throughout the globe. So these particular regulatory norms are not fixed one, so it can be changed. It is not a permanent one, so it can be changed over a period of time. So the IMDS track that particular data, and it makes the users aware of that particular data, and it will always give constant updates to incorporate that particular directives through satisfy in that particular database system. So in this way, the IMDS will provide a certain advantages for these ELV complaints to satisfy that particular ELV complaints. So moving on to next slide. So I would like to take you through the overview of enhancements in IMDS 14.3 release. So this latest updates. So as we mentioned in the last slide, so constant updates, it is one of the advantages of this IMDS to comply with the ELV standards. So this for IMDS 14.3 release is going to happen later at March this year. So in a month, I believe. So so what are the changes or what are the updates which are going to happen with that 14.3 release? So normally two changes under these two topics. The changes are going to happen. One is functional changes, another one is check changes. So this functional changes has 6 different changes, like source of material, so allowing bio-based content for classification 7.1, then MDS report, so new recipient fields, then MDS tree search, then new search types, then MDS analysis, display classification for materials, then polymer material wizard, and new options for flame retardants and plasticizers, then MDS copy dialog to update referenced versions, then check changes, MDS check, display top level supplier and MDS, then MDS check in the point of view from a entered ranges of mechanical recyclates. So I'll be explaining these particular concepts or particular updates in detail in the subsequent slides. We are going to move on. So let me move on. So the first enhancement in detail gives the source of material, which is allowing the bio-based content for classification 7.1. So before that release of 14.3, so it was that is till now, so it was only possible to enter inorganic content under the classification of 7.1. So whereas we can enter bio-based content under the classification, for example, classification 5. So we can enter that bio-based content. So whereas the 7.1 classification materials will not allow to enter the bio-based content, only inorganic contents can be entered. So once after this 14.3 release is been done, so we can enter the bio-based content for this particular 7.1 classification. So for already released material classification of 7.1, so it will be assumed that there is no bio-based content. So only for those materials, the bio-based content will be displayed as 0%. So only after release of this 14.3 happens, so after that particular release happens, whenever we are going to create a material under the classification of 7.1, so we have the option to enter bio-based content. So till before that, so the particular materials used before that will simply show that bio-based content as 0%. So let me show an example. So before IMDS release 14.3, so you could see, so you can only enter content of primary inorganic or fossil-based material and content of recyclate. So no options for entering the bio-based content. So once after this 14.3 release happens, you can see another tab of content of bio-based material will be included, so that you can enter the bio-based content and its percentage for this classification 7.1 as well. So this is one of the major update which is going to happen after this 14.3 release. The next slide is MDS report. So new recipient fields. So once after creating an MDS, so after submission, so if you're going to take a report, so you'll be getting a full report or header report kind of thing. So after doing that, you'll be have a header like a product identification, the first page of that particular report. So there will be numerous data, product identification, suppliers information, kind of stuff will be there. So along with that, we could also find this drawing number, drawing data, and drawing change level, so which has been used by the customers like Daimler and all. So this will also be included in our header reports hereafter once the 14.3 release update get released. So I'll move on to the next. I'll show that. So before IMDS release 14.3, you could see, so if at all you are downloading a particular report, so in the header file you could see the supplier data, product identifications, you could see all these stuffs under that. So only thing is, after 14.3 release, we could also see an additional 3 options like drawing number, drawing change level, and drawing date. So so that is an update which is going to happen in this March. The next. So MDS tree search, so new search types. So so you might have noticed that. So once if you're going to create a particular MDS, you can see MDS tree search type. So under the MDS tab, so MDS screen. So you could see certain data under that particular tab. So like for example, a cash number, its part numbers. You could always search for that. So once after creating a particular data, you could always search using the cache number or using the part number. So likewise, using the ID version kind of things. So that stuffs are included in that MDS tree search type. So if at all you need these data like classification, basic substance list, basic substance group, category, confidential substance. So you must go through the next tab like where used analysis screen. So once after this 14.3 update gets released, so under the tree search type itself, you could find these many options. So you no need to go through this where used analysis screen. So in the tree search type itself, you can find that and you can make use of that particular options. So like before IMDS release 14.3, you could see what are the information under that particular tree search type. So once after 14.3 gets released, you could additionally see that classification, basic substance list, basic substance group, category, confidential substance, and all. So these are the update which is going to happen in after 14.3 release. So the next update is MDS analysis. So display classification for materials. So under the analysis tab of the MDS screen, if you're going to search for a particular material classification, so if you are going for analyzing the classification of materials, so before 14.3 release, so if you go, you can see the left side, so like ID version, material, its percentage, its weight. These are the data which has been included in that tab. So once after 14.3 gets released, so you could additionally see a tab called classification. So in that particular window itself, you can see so under which classification that particular material comes. So its ID version, its weight, its percentage, so that you can know the classification here itself. So this is another one major update that is going to provide after this 14.3 release. The next thing is polymer material wizard. So a new option for flame retardants and plasticizers. So this wizard, so that like for example, if you're going to create a material under the classification 5.1, so you will be shown a tab like enter to flame retardant or plasticizer course. So for this purpose, you will be having two existing check boxes. So you can just check out with plasticizer and flame retardant. So now after 14.3 release, so that particular checkboxes will get replaced by the drop down menus, whereas you can choose the exact code so which you're going to use under that particular material. So the plasticizer code, some plasticizer code example is given here, like a flame retardant codes are given here. You can exactly choose that particular code from the drop down menu, and you can provide a detailed information for the particular suppliers and all. So these are the update which is going to happen in this polymer material wizard tab. So I'll show an example. Before IMDS release 14.3, you could see the plasticizers and flame retardants will be given with a checkbox. So once after this release happens, that is update 14.3 release happens, so these checkboxes will be replaced with the drop-down menu. So from the drop-down menu, you can choose an exact code for this plasticizer and flame retardant. So this is a aspect of this particular update. The next thing is MDS copy dialog to update reference version. So for example, if you are copying an MDS data or when creating a new version, so you just simply if you're going to create a new version of an MDS data, so once you make a new version, so all the particular subcomponents used under that particular MDS will get automatically updated to their latest available version. So since before 14.3 release. So once after 14.3 release, so instead of automatically updating that particular data used inside the MDS to a latest available version, you could see a dialog box will be popping out, and that dialog box will give you an option of or possibility to choose. So which reference you need to update or which one you need to keep. So that is an option which is going to provide after this 14.3 release. So one thing to note down is that so this dialog will only be shown when manually copying an MDS. So like example, so context menu in the MDS search results. So it will not be shown when you're using an MDS update screen. So like if you're going to save that particular version, save as a new version, it will not be showing that particular pop-up. So it will only show when you are using that or copying that particular new version or data sheet under the MDS search results. So this is one of the update of this 14.3 release. So these are the functional changes which is going to happen on this 14.3 release. So coming to the check changes, the first change is display top level supplier and IMDS. So so once after creating an MDS, if you're going for a check, so you'll be showing some results like type, material, so what are the so and so details will be there. So along with that, after this 14.3 release, you could also see the suppliers, so specific supplier of that particular part and its corresponding ID version in that check tab itself, so that you can easily identify that, and you can get back to the supplier if you want to get an alternative part and all. So you can no need of searching back or tracking back the suppliers or ID with some time-consuming process. So you can always get the results in the search like MDS check tab itself. So that is one of the aspect which is going to happen after this 14.3 release. So you could see, so if you're going to go in for a check result, so you can see number, its type, tab, node, and its message. So these are the available tab till this 14.3 release. Once after 14.3 release gets updated, so you can see MDS supplier and supplier ID version, so in this tab itself. The next thing is MDS check only check entered ranges of mechanical recycling. So the check which mechanical recyclate check which exceeding 20% will be adapted to consider the entered values. So for example, before the release of IMDS 14.0, a message will be shown in case the range of entered total pre-consumer and post-consumer mechanical recyclate exceeds 20% as a whole, as an MDS as a whole. So after this 14.0 release, the message will only be shown in case of mechanical entered ranges in the dialog box. So that is individual tab under the post and pre-consumer. So it will not be calculating the total portion of the mechanical recyclate. So it will only calculate the specific range under the post-consumer and pre-consumer tabs. So you can see before 14.0 release, so that particular data has been taken as a whole. If that exceeds 20% as a whole, it will show a warning message. So once after 14.0 release gets updated, you could see so that whole as a whole, it will not be taking that particular percentage as a whole. So instead, it will show that content of pre-consumer and post-consumer and the individual data itself. So and thereby it shows warning at the individual tabs. So these are the updates which is going to happen with this 14.3 release, which is going to happen March this year. The next thing is future development of this IMDS. So as you might have heard that IMDS is going to plan their release 15 the later half of this year 2024. So the major update given by the chairperson briefing to this AIG conference is that there is a refinement stage is going on. So they have planned to include this product carbon footprint PCF in IMDS, which is expected to release on this 15. So PCF is nothing but product carbon footprint. So it is a total amount of greenhouse gas emissions that result from the production, use, and disposal of a product, almost every stage of life cycle of a product. So this includes almost every stage of the product's life cycle. So that PCF or almost most of the OEMs now tend to follow this PCF, so carbon footprint, so to avoid the emissions or to lower the greenhouse emissions towards the environment, so that we can satisfy or we can make the life better for the future generations. So IMDS is not not limiting that aspect as well. So IMDS is also going to include that PCF to satisfy the norms and to comply with the environmental regulations globally. So the calculation of this PCF requires various information outside of the IMDS system as well. So IMDS cannot directly get the data. So this information will be as part of ingredient section. So like 3 calculations will be done, like calculating this PCF information, main value calculations, like it has been calculated based on Ketana X rule book, so which is a front runner in this area. So or any other accepted sector rule book. So this calculator method will be used to determine the primary value which is associated with this product carbon footprint. So this calculation process will be not only limited to inside the IMDS, outside it should also be look outside of the IMDS, potentially with the support from the system to display a cumulative sum. So not an individual product carbon footprint, the cumulative sum of all the received suppliers PCF as a whole, so in an IMDS system. So this indicates that IMDS might assist in showcasing the combined carbon footprints provided by different suppliers and whether it is satisfying the norms of the particular OEM. So that is an aspect which IMDS is going to concentrate. So inclusivity of factors, this PCF computation includes internal process, logistics within the supplier's operations, and logistics from the sub-supply chain. So thereby can satisfy the norms by including a cumulative sum of all the PCF information from the received supplier's data and to comply with the standard of these OEMs. So these are the future developments which has been planned to happen with this release 15 as mentioned by the committee chairman in this conference. So with this I would like to wind up this session on the ELV directives and advanced features of this IMDS. So now I'll hand over the session to Ranjini, who will be taking over through the services APA we provide. So Ranjini, please, you can take over from now.
Thank you, Bharat and Shakti, for giving us insights on ELV and IMDS. We also spoke on some insights from ELV directive, which is very clear that we had to go through the because we wanted to tie ELV and IMDS very closely together. And as you can see, APA, we have been in this industry for more than 2 decades, and we also provide turnkey solutions for IMDS system. And we also service a lot of reputed OEMs across the globe. And we provide services 2 ways. Like one, we have software as a service, and the other is like we can provide IMDS services over to you. We have a software called MDS Express, which will actually assist you to validate your data better, IMDS data better. And can you move over to the next slide, please? So you can see here some information on MDS Express. We have this solution planned out especially for IMDS compliances. So with the MDS Express software, you will be able to identify unreported material data. You also have reasons for rejection of your data that you want to upload into IMDS. Then generating tree structures in IMDS can be a bit difficult, and so we are making a hassle-free and error-free generation of IMDS tree structures with MDS Express. And then also we are automating most of the supplier communication. Once your data is validated, we send out automated emails to suppliers and then request them to come back with any data. Any data that may be missing, or if we find out any errors, we send out automated messages. So we reduce your time of manual intervention during this process. Then we also provide with a lot of metrics for suppliers, customers, and also the material data that we have and we validate using MDS Express. And we also have the option to do RRR calculations. So with the APIs, that what we are trying to say to you is that we also not only have the domain expertise who will be able to guide you through the IMDS process. Of course, they definitely can. If you are if you're an OEM who's looking forward for a hassle-free IMDS services, you want to give it over to somebody, we are the right person. And not only that, and sometimes like even IMDS can be tricky. It requires a lot of experience, and for people who are starting to use IMDS, creating tree structures or is going through the entire flow of IMDS may be difficult, and that's where MDS Express will really come in handy. So we also request you to make use of our services or contact us if you have any questions. If you do have questions now, I think we'll have the Q&A session shortly, and you can post your questions in the comment section. Thank you. So we are here and we'll be happy to answer some of your questions. So let us know if you have any questions. If not, we will conclude the session. Thank you. Since we are not receiving any comments or questions for now, we are going to end the webinar, and we will make sure that we send you the recording shortly. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.